Some people sometimes get upset because I talk in riddles. I do that on purpose. Part of it is because I don't necessarily think I have the answer. I may think I'm on the right path, but I figure if I drop some hints, maybe you'll pick it up and you'll figure it out for yourself, right? I don't want to lead you astray, and maybe the solution is different for you where you are, depending on what the truth may be. Does this sound like a riddle? And oftentimes, when you provide people with what you think is the solution, well, is it the right solution for them? Is it going to work in their milieu? And will they even listen to you? Because the way I think, the way that you are most likely to carry out ideas into action and put them in existence is if, at least in some part, you have ownership of that idea. If I just tell you what to do, you're most likely to rebel, in other words. But if I stimulate you to think and formulate your own ideas, you're more likely to follow through on those, right? So here's another riddle. And I know you're looking at the title thinking to yourself, what is this guy talking about, right? That is the right question, by the way. That's a very good question. So, riddle me this. What do you need a passport for? To pass a port. Now, if you're going somewhere in the world, wherever that may be, and you're not passing any port, do you still need a passport? Probably not. So if you want to cross an ocean, build a boat, right? Exactly. Anyway, I was thinking about social engineering and social reconstruction, and sometimes I will use these terms as if they were interchangeable, and sometimes I think they are, but basically, the way I see it, and if you disagree, do let me know. Social engineering are the methods used to bring about social reconstruction, and obviously, one can be the other, broadly speaking. But specifically, social engineering is the things that social engineers do and implement to bring about social change or reconstruction. Anyway, let's talk about social engineering insofar as how we rear children and how that has manifested itself in today's society. Now, this sort of thing could be applied to, the school system, the dietary recommendations, so on and so forth. Anyway, from what I understand, and this may not be universal all across the globe or flat earth, you figure it out. But there used to be less or none whatsoever intervention from these, I don't know, governmental or super governmental global organizations into how people should do things and or how mothers should feed their children, breastfeed their kids, right? There was none of that. That's at some point in our history, right? That didn't exist. The assumption was that just like goats, sheep, and cattle, perhaps more so than these animals because we're so much more quote unquote evolved, if you believe that, or we're just better in a sense, more intelligent, right? Higher beings. If those animals can figure out how to breastfeed their children or udder feed their children, kids, offspring rather, well, why can't human beings, right? If we're that much smarter, in other words, why do we need instructions on how to do the most basic, most natural, most normal of things, right? What has happened to us? How have we been degenerated to a point where we don't understand our nature anymore? We have lost certain instincts and impulses? Or have they been hijacked, right? All very important questions. But there is this assumption on the part of these so called authorities and emphasis on the word auto. Power grabbing. Anyway, I'm trying not to swear. They're basically telling you how to raise your kids because you don't think you're able to. Or there's a certain goal they have in mind, right? So, for example, this is just one tiny little slither of what I see as social engineering resulting in social reconstruction. Not only did these organizations intervene in this natural process that every mother should be able to figure out on her own, well, they started doing something that, in my opinion, has led to our current state of affairs, has helped definitely. So, whereas they weren't saying this before, from what I understand, lately, and this has probably been happening for decades, there has been an emphasis on letting your baby eat when the baby wants to eat, right? When the baby demands it, you provide it. Whereas in the past, or at least that's how we were raised, if our mother was busy or whatever, she had things to do or she wasn't able to do it, and then she made us wait, or she had a schedule to which she stuck, right? So it wasn't random, and we weren't starving or anything like that, but there was a certain schedule and she kept to that. There was a certain kind of rigor, some kind of engineering, if you will, on the part of the mother, right? Because that's what her life looked like. There was some kind of structure proposed, right? There was an understanding that you listen to me. You're dependent on. I need to socially engineer these dogs a little bit better. Hey, shut up! There wasn't. Man, I lost my train of thought. I'm not doing this video over. There was an understanding, there was a certain pecking order, if you will, established, right? I'm the boss, and you listen to what I gotta say. You're dependent on me until, you're not. What I say, you must obey. Basically, this is just very much natural and something that children, in my opinion, in order to be raised properly with some sort of culture and respect for the real authority, and I'm not sure that's even the right word, there needs to be some kind of structure, discipline, and understanding that, I'm the boss. You depend on me. And that's part of the way that's established is by, not giving into your baby whenever your baby thinks it wants or needs something, right? So you're seeing, and you have been, I have noticed in my lifetime, these sort of kids that just start crying and they get everything that they ask for, basically. These parents, just to stop them from crying. And look, I'm not giving anybody advice on how to raise their children, okay? This is just things I'm observing. We don't have to agree. It is what it is. But basically, what I've seen is a whole bunch of spoiled brats raised. And could it be that this was initiated by the controllers with, little things here and there? This is just one of many ways in which this sort of thing could be brought about. And what it leads to, I will get to in just a second, in case you hadn't figured it out just yet. Right? But this could be one of the ways in which we have allowed mothers to raise generations by now, I would say, of brats, entitled kids, right? Who foster certain systems of gimme, 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 right? You want to call them communism, you want to call them socialism, fair enough. Marxism is probably the best way of describing these systems, but that's sort of what we have fostered, how we raised generations of people who are primed for that sort of system, right? Because we're moving more and more in the direction of, you know, countries or communities or societies of less production and more consumption, right? Definitely in the United States, which is why China, when the time comes, will kick everybody's ass. Sorry, but that's a whole nother tangent I don't feel like going on into right now. But basically, you know, this is how you create a generation or generations of Marxists without them even knowing what that sort of ideology may be. They're just ready to accept it because they want to be given stuff. Because whenever they've asked for it since very, very young, since birth, they've gotten it. So they're used to that, right? They're not used to being made to wait. They're not used to being made to suffer just a little bit because life is suffering. If you eliminate suffering, you eliminate life. That's why you have all these nihilistic ideologies taking over, like veganism, like antinatalism, yeah, like Antifa, right? Marxism, all these nihilistic ideologies that lead to nothing but destruction of human life, right? Because we want to eliminate all suffering. We can't handle suffering, but in order to produce anything, right, be a productive member of society and create wealth in this world, true wealth, you have to suffer. You have to give up your freedom in order to produce something, whether it's a beautiful poem, a nice little song for people to enjoy, or a steak. In order to produce anything, you have to surrender your freedom, at least for a moment, to create something that people will give you something that they created in exchange for. Yeah? And that's how you foster, if you want to call it capitalism, sure. But basically, healthy economies. Okay? But unfortunately, more and more, part partly because of these top-down directives on how to rear children, we're finding ourselves in societies that are more consumeristic than productive, right? Which creates useless eaters, yeah, which creates the kind of society that we find ourselves in, the sort of environment where, well, we gotta get rid of the old people because they're just, they're a dead weight on the system. We gotta get rid of all these different people that aren't producing anything because who's going to be able to support them and sustain them, right? We're going to get to a point, if we haven't already, to where we can no longer support this system is going to collapse on itself because once we reach this critical mass of consumers that aren't producing anything, the people that are producing, I don't care how mechanized, how technologically advanced, how super duper the means of production become, we keep moving in that direction, we're gonna get to the brink and fall over. And the only way of continuing our society will be to call the useless eaters. And that's exactly where we're headed. And this is my short little video on one little sliver of social engineering, social reconstruction, and how all of that has been happening for a very long time, the results of which have for a lot of keen people been visible, but are more so than ever before. All right? So, how often should you breastfeed your baby? I don't know. But you should definitely build a boat and, you know, produce some food. For sure. All right. That's my video. I hope you liked it. And if you did and you feel like supporting my channel, I have links that will direct you in that direction in the description as well as the comment section of this very video. Take care.